Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday on the Pastor Scott Show. That means it is Open Line Friday.
Open Line Friday's calling you. Bring your faith, your fun, your politics too. From Southern Cali, we bring the light. Every Friday, feeling so right. Right!
That's right. At Open Line Friday, you can talk about anything on the Pastor Scott Show. Open Line Friday is sponsored by Berglund and Johnson, the personal injury attorneys with offices in L.A., Orange County, serving Southern California. Protect your family by calling 1-800-4 and the words "if hurt." Let's jump right into your calls here. Open Line Friday. Phone number is 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. What we do on Fridays is you can call about anything you'd like. So if we're talking about a subject and you're thinking, I want to talk about something else, great. Call us. We will change the subject just for you. It can be a Bible question. It can be a spiritual question, something else on your mind, political thing, something in the news, whatever it is. We will do that for you. 888-528-2557. You can call right now with anything on your mind. 888-528-2557. All right, on the Pastor Scott Show, we talk about issues of the day from a Christian perspective, and on Fridays, we talk about whatever it is. Here's an issue of the day. Let's go to 1-1.
Well, this is a disaster.
Democratic Senator Catherine Blake Spears referring to the high-speed rail project.
I really want this to be successful, and just hearing these things makes it seem like we're proceeding on a wing and a prayer.
This week, lawmakers on the Senate Transportation Committee got an update to the controversial high-speed rail project. CEO Ian Chowdhury provided an update to lawmakers with its 2026 business plan, singing its praises.
It's not about plans anymore. It's about construction getting done and entering into the next phase of the project where we will start laying tracks.
Now, so lots of news about the ill-fated bullet train, but mostly the reason I wanted to play that clip is because of how it starts.
Well, this is a disaster.
That's my favorite clip of the day right there. That is from Catherine Blake Spears, a California Democrat state senator, and that is her response to the new report that came from the Bullet Train Authority about what a mess it is.
Well, this is a disaster.
Yes, it is. It's still a disaster. I can't believe we're still building that thing. That is, it is, to me, this is the sign of everything that has gone badly in California over the last several years. It seems to me it's just out in the open. We're wasting money. We can't get something accomplished. And it's thematic of everything.
Well, this is a disaster.
I take offense at our policies and strategies.
Anyway, so the bullet train is a way over budget, and it's hardly being built at all. And the whole thing is still, the part they're building it is from Merced to Bakersfield, which is going to carry about a total of 2 passengers.
Well, this is a disaster.
So some new stuff came out on it. Here's a little bit more on what was reported about the ill-fated high-speed rail here in California.
The plan never specifically mentions that the station locations are being changed.
According to the LAO's report, high-speed rail officials are considering cutting 9 miles from the Merced to Bakersfield line by moving the station locations to South Merced and North Bakersfield instead of the originally planned downtown.
Well, this is a disaster.
I have a question. Jose, how do you shrink if you're not changing the actual direction of the train? Okay, trains, one day perhaps they will lay track to this. Somehow I don't know if we'll even get there, but how do you reduce 7 or 8 miles of track just by moving the stations? I don't understand that.
All right, so I watched this old show on the History Channel when they first built the railroads here. So
I thought you were going to say the History Channel's already covering the California high-speed rail because it's already been around so long, it's already history.
They probably are probably already covering it. But I learned that the guys, they cared about making money and they were getting paid to build these railroads. Or it might have been the other way around. Anyways, to make more money, they extended the rail. So instead of going to just a straight line to one point, they're like, well, nah, let's just twist and turn. Let's make the railway longer. Let's go around this mountain. But now if you want to shorten it, you know how the original spots they said were supposed to be in downtown?
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're going to now, in terms of the map. I don't know, that middle area of California.
Because nobody goes to Merced or Bakersfield unless you really have to.
Yeah, maybe they're just, instead of making all these turns and curves, They're just doing a straight shot now.
Maybe that's that. You're probably on to something there with this track. So that, because I thought, how do you reduce it if you're just moving the stations by 7 or 8 miles?
Well, this is a disaster.
I feel like you're probably right. That must be what it is. But if you're turning, and there's a lot of twists and turns for no reason, only to spend more money, which I think this entire thing is just about spending money for unions and to get it into politics and money laundering. I think all of this, all of the bullet trains in China cost less than this one train that we don't have yet, just to put it in perspective. In fact, the funniest statistic is we could fund, with the money that they're planning on spending on this train, we could fund 400 years of flights from LA to San Francisco for people. 400 years. What are you going to do 400 years from now,
Well, this is a disaster.
Anyway, 888-528-2557. That's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Somebody put on the Rumble chat, Open Rail Friday. It may be what it is, 888-528-2557. We can talk about anything. You don't have to talk about high-speed rail. You got a Bible question, spiritual question, something on your mind, you can call now. 888-528-2557 is the number, 888-528-2557. All right. So the high-speed rail, a little bit more on what's happening with that. 1313.
The LAO's report also mentions the funds are not there from the state to finish the project, estimating the Merced to Bakersfield line to cost $36 billion and the San Francisco to Los Angeles line to cost $231 billion.
Well, this is a disaster.
So it just keeps on going. This it's not going anywhere, but it's where it keeps on going. If you have lost track of where all this goes, I didn't mean that pun, but I like it. So let's keep this train moving forward here. In 2008, California voters approved this project. Same, by the way, you'll be voting next week. Your ballots come in the mail next week.
California is in trouble.
We've been saying that since 2008, and or before that. 2008, voters approved the project. But when we approved it, the belief was the cost was going to be about 33 to 45 billion. That's what they said. San Francisco to Los Angeles in less than 3 hours was the promise. In fact, it was supposed to go to San Diego. They scrapped that as soon as they could.
Well, this is a disaster.
And the idea was it was only going to cost $33 to $45 billion, and it was supposed to be done in 2020. And they haven't laid one piece of track yet with all of that. From 2019 to 2021, the project was scaled back just to the Central Valley segment, which is obviously the most busy part of our state between Bakersfield and Merced. Which, by the way, if they actually were to open that, which is highly questionable, but if they really were going to open that section first, like they're planning, it would save you about an hour of the drive from Merced to Bakersfield, about an hour, and it would cost you 7 or 8 times as much for the ticket as it would for the gas.
Well, this is a disaster.
888-528-2557, Pastor Scott Show. This is Open Line Friday, and call about anything on Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Michael in Hollywood, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, Pastor, how are you today? Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're welcome. How are you, Michael?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm just on my way home from work. Listen, this train is a disaster. There's no question about it. Years ago, this thing was proposed by Governor Brown, and I believe that
in his first term or a second?
Well, who knows? It could have started at the first, but I from some knowledge is that the train goes through property of his. How is that?
It goes through Jerry Brown's property?
Yes, properties that he owns.
Well, does he get? Well, that's it. I haven't heard that before, because normally what they've been doing is through eminent domain. They've been taking people's property, mostly farm property, in the Central Valley. There's some sad stories too, because it's these farmers who've owned this land forever, and now it's being taken for the train, and they're thinking, okay, well, it's better for California, and now they don't know if there's going to be any train, but there's these weird cement pylons out where they used to grow crops for money. So Jerry Brown might be making some money if he even lives long enough for that.
Yes. Well, let's hope not. I think he made enough money, and I think he did enough damage to the state of California.
I think so. We gave that guy 16 years. 16 years of our life. Jerry Brown got to be governor. I think, was it 16 or 12? Did he serve?
Well, just think if Governor Newsom wasn't up in his term right now, we'd probably give him 20.
We probably would keep reelecting. I think that would keep happening. Michael, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. You know, it occurred to me earlier today as I was thinking about this story that if they even finish this train ever, I may not be alive for it. Like, it might outlive, it's going to take so long that even if it ever gets done, most of us will not survive it.
Well, this is a disaster.
It is. Like, we voted for this, and we may never get to see it.
Well, this is a disaster.
It's like the people who built those old cathedrals, you know, in Europe that took 400 years to build, and that's what this train is going to be, except it's not going to look anywhere near as nice as that. It's going to look pretty terrible.
Well, this is a disaster.
888-528-2557, Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything. Go to PastorScottShow.com to check us out online, PastorScottShow.com. Maurice in Los Angeles, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Thank you, Pastor Scott. I'm first-time caller.
Oh, well, let me give you the first-time caller fanfare. Here you go. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Thank you. I immigrated from Egypt to the U.S. in 1970, and I lived all my life in California, and I look at how the city is managed and how this state is managed. It's all about management and managing funds and managing money. I think Trump is so great because he's a businessman. He knows how to manage things. And this state, our governor, the only thing he knows how to manage is his looks. That's all.
You know,
I take offense at our policies and strategies.
you know what, though? His hair does look good. I've met the governor, and, you know, he looks the same in person as he does in real life, actually. It takes a lot of work to do that. But I just said he looks the same in person as he does in real life.
Yes, Pastor. But he's born with a silver spoon. He doesn't know anything about the average person, the working people who sits on freeways for 2 hours to get home and 2 hours to get to work. He has absolutely no idea. And we need some really fast change into the state, or otherwise it is going, excuse my language, it's going to hell.
Well, you know, it's
California's in trouble.
It's been that way for a while. So I appreciate you calling, Maurice. 888-528-2557. Open line Friday, 888-528-2557. And this is the Pastor Scott Show. You know, here's the thing. And on Open Line Friday, you can call about anything, by the way. The amount of money that they're expecting this to cost, it's anywhere from at least $126 billion, but some estimates now are coming in up over $230 billion. But at the $126 billion, you could fund 150 to 400 years of flights between Los Angeles to San Francisco. That years meaning everybody, all the flights, everybody, every day who's taking off from LA to San Francisco. I don't know if that includes Burbank, but everybody LA to San Francisco for 400 years. You could fund all of that for the price of this train. Space exploration. We could pay, it costs about $4 billion to send people to the moon. You could send dozens of trips to the moon for the cost of this. NASA can do that. Probably hundreds if it was Elon Musk sending people to the moon. Infrastructure upgrades. Imagine what you could do for existing freeways, carpool lanes, filling the potholes, all kinds of things. You could have better regional commuter rail systems. Like there are things you could do to, if you really wanted to have rail, a lot better with this money than what we got. But it keeps on going. Housing and development. Every mayoral candidate seems to be promising housing in one way or another. This is the money for it if you wanted to use it for that. You could purchase around 9 aircraft carriers. Aircraft carrier is expensive, carries thousands of people, all of that. One of the most expensive. You could fund 9 of them. I think we only have 4. something like that. I think there's only 4 or 5 aircraft carriers in our entire fleet. You could have another 9 for what the train is costing.
Well, this is a disaster.
This is the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll take your call on anything you'd like, 888-528-2557. Now, this leads me to another question in general. Do you ever take the train anywhere? You're obviously not taking the bullet train in your lifetime, but is taking the train a good idea? Should we take the train on a vacation? Should we take the train? Where can you even go? You can, I've taken the train from like San Diego to San Luis Obispo, and that's pretty fun. Get off and you can go from San Diego, and I imagine go from anywhere in the LA area, get on the Amtrak, take that down to, not San Luis Obispo, San Juan Capistrano. Shorter trip, right in the middle there. And you get off the train in San Juan Capistrano, and there's some nice places to go see. You can go see the Mission. You can go see, there's some good places to eat, and then you can get back on the train and go home. It's not terribly expensive either to do that. I think that's fun. Would you take the train? Because that's another big question with the expensive train in California. Is anybody going to take it anyway? Especially if it's still cheaper and faster to fly. Eric is letting me know that we have 11 aircraft carriers. Is that correct? We have currently 11 in service. What did I say, 4? I definitely, I got that wrong. It's 2 days in a row I got something wrong on the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Stacy in Sherman Oaks, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show on Open Line Friday.
Hello again, Pastor Scott. Thanks for having me on. So you're already on one of my favorite topics ever, which is trains. And it is unfortunate that it's more economically feasible in many cases to fly or drive than to take the train. Unfortunately, our government has not invested in rail as much as they've invested in air travel and in the infrastructure for people to use personal automobiles. We spend a lot of money, a lot of tax dollars go to building and maintaining roads. There's also a lot of subsidies the government offers for both the oil and gas industry and the airline industry that aren't necessarily there for rail. But I personally prefer to take the train whenever it's available. And for folks in LA, we have an incredible metro network of trains. I take the B line from the Valley to get to Hollywood or to downtown all the time. It's way preferable than dealing with traffic getting over the hill and then paying an arm and a leg for parking when you get to any of those neighborhoods where you're going to see a show or go to City Hall. I just think it's unfortunate with this issue, with this rail that's gone nowhere that we've spent so much money on, because just like sort of the way we've seen a lot of money disappear in LA County as we're trying to mitigate the homelessness crisis. A lot of money has disappeared relating to this train, but the problem is that it's getting funneled into the wrong hands and embezzled.
Yeah, it has to be, right? I think everybody, we have to know that's what's going on.
Right. So it's just, if we had honest people actually doing the work, we could have a functioning rail system by now. So I think it's important to point out, it's not like it actually costs this much to put a rail in the ground. And I think we need to be looking at, China has amazing high-speed trains. I'm not going to always say China's the best at everything, but that is one thing.
They did this, and Japan has it, Europe has it, and they've done it for a lot cheaper. And I think that is a big part of the fact that we know that the money's just getting spent. And, and I think it's a shame. So you like taking the train. I take the train sometimes. I would take it more if it was convenient, if it was really dropping me off somewhere within walking distance of where I needed to go.
Same. And like you said, like in Europe, those networks are built out. In Asia, those networks are built out. It's just a matter of affordability. But
things are less spread out. Do you ever go to like Washington or New York? Because the trains are great there.
I have been to New York, and the subway system is incredible.
Yeah, but it's everything's crammed there. It's not spread out like out here.
That's true. LA is a huge swath of land compared to Manhattan. But anyway, thanks for chatting about trains today. It's one of my favorite topics ever. And thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Real quick, I got a joke for you that Harry Truman once said. This is a political joke, okay? Is that FDR had the New Deal and Harry Truman had the Square Deal. And Harry Truman said of Eisenhower, because he had all the car executives in his cabinet, that he was going to give you a used car deal. Which I thought was a funny line back in the day, just that almost nobody knows but me. But somehow I thought you would appreciate it, and you did. Open line Friday, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Open line, call me about anything. We'll be right back. It's Open Line Friday on the Pastor Scott Show. You can call about anything. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. If you've got a Bible question, spiritual question, or you want to talk about politics, something in the news, whatever is on your mind, you can call today, and we'll change the subject just for you. So we've been talking about the train project here in California.
Well, this is a disaster.
And that's fine. We can keep talking about that. But if you want to talk about something else, that's the best part of Open Line Friday. You can ask me anything. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Let's go to 22.
California's high-speed rail project. It's set to one day connect Los Angeles and San Francisco, and eventually San Diego and Sacramento. In this newly proposed business plan released this year, project leaders now estimate the LA to San Francisco segment of the project will cost about $126 billion, with service starting around 2040. The goal is to get the Bakersfield to Merced section of the project up and running earlier, no later than 2033.
So things you can buy for $126 billion is one of them is 400 years of all the airfare it takes to get from L.A. to San Francisco. That's how insane this is. Do you like to ride the train? Because one of the other issues is will people even ride it? It's not really direct. You got to go out to Palmdale and then make your way to Bakersfield or something, and then you get on the bullet train or high-speed rail to go to Merced. Then you got to get an Uber or something to get over to BART to get into San Francisco. It's going to be very expensive and take you a lot of time and money and almost as long as driving, and at least when that first thing is there. But other than that, would you like to take the train? Generally, do you take the train? What's it like? 888-528-2557. Israel and Whittier, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Pastor Scott, great show, by the way. You alleviate my commutes every day.
Well, thank you.
I recently took a trip to San Diego on the Metrolink, and it was a quick one-day turnaround for my wife and I and my son, $30 round trip.
Yeah.
Had some barbecue down there, visited the mission. It was a great ride. My son loved it.
It's actually pretty fun. I wonder how many people do that, but it's not bad. Go ahead.
Yes, and also with the fast track on the freeways, I feel like we got duped and they're double dipping because didn't we already pay for it once with our tax money, and then we're getting charged to use it?
You mean like especially the fast track that's really what used to be just the carpool lane, but now you got to pay for it on a couple of freeways, right? I get it if it's a particular toll road to save you, like the 73 will cut you through Laguna Beach, and you with bad traffic down there, it does save some time. It only saves you like a minute, though, if there's not traffic. Yeah, it's very questionable to me when they turn what used to be the carpool lane and the freeway you already paid for into a toll lane. But yeah, that happens. But you like the train, so you took your family down there on the train.
Yeah, it was a great experience. One day turnaround, and I'm looking for the next trip going up to Santa Barbara. I mean, to get on there, you just pay for parking, jump on the train, and just avoid a lot of that freeway headaches.
Yeah, it's really fast, and I would probably take the train regularly in here if I could get home fast enough. So, and thanks for calling, Israel. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. I often will take the train if my car's in the shop, or sometimes I'll fly out of Burbank Airport to go see my parents or something, and so I just get a Uber over there. But I can... If I take the train here, I can walk to the studio from the train station in about 45 minutes. That's not too bad if you have time. The problem is if I were to take the train tonight to get home, I have to get a ride down to the train station. Otherwise, I'll miss it. It's too fast. And if I miss that train, then I don't get home till 9 o'clock or something, and it's not worth it. 888-528-2557. That's one of the issues with trains in Southern California. Stacy, our caller, was talking about why it would be great to have the train in all these different places. Back east, it's smaller, and the train works really well. And I think they keep sending us all this money to do it, but they don't realize how spread out everything is here. What you got, Jose?
I remember when you asked me for a ride that one time to the train station.
Yeah, you gave me a ride one time, at least most of the way to the train station, as I recall.
So much traffic, and then you had to get off in the middle of the street.
Yes.
And then I go to the train station, and I see you running across the street.
I would have made it anyway. It was really close. Like I said, if I don't make it, then I don't get home. It takes forever for the next one. So in the middle of the street, I got out of his car. Like at a red light, I just jumped out and I start sprinting to the train station. And as I'm getting there, I notice him pulling up. We would have got there at the same time. But, I probably needed the steps, as it turned out. That's the downside of the trains. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll take your call on anything, so you can call about any subject. Feel free to change the subject or bring something back up. So we'll go back and forth between the topics on Open Line Friday. Abner in Santa Barbara, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. I'm so glad to get to speak to you. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
First-time caller.
Is this your first-time caller?
Yes, sir.
There you go. There's your fanfare. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, I just had a confusion about, our soul, how our souls are eternal, right? Like, they don't have a beginning or an end, like our souls are eternal. So, when a baby's born, is that a brand new soul that's coming about, or do you believe in reincarnation and kind of thing like that or something? That's what I'm just confused about.
Yeah, I don't think that we are eternal in the sense that we've always been here. There are brand new souls and we are created. So, no, I don't believe in reincarnation. I think that when you are probably conceived is when you get your soul, and God creates you as a person. Those scriptures say he knits you together in your mother's womb, and your soul is just yours. And the idea that a soul is just reborn into a new body or something, Christianity doesn't teach that. I don't believe that. Each person lives one time, and then they will face judgment before their Creator.
Oh, I see.
See what I mean?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I've been raised Christian my whole life. And then I just want to see if you could pray for my life. I'm usually I'm going through a lot right now, and I just want to see if you could pray for me because I really need it.
Yeah. Sure, I'll pray for you. What can I pray for specifically? Just generally, or do you have something specific going on?
Well, I got some financial stuff that I got. I'm getting sued. I got a lawsuit, and my job. This job. I'm some prayer and get some guidance, in my life.
Okay, yeah, I'll pray for you. God, I just want to lift up Abner right now. I'm thankful that he called today, that he is our first-time caller on the show today, and that you've led him to follow you in his life. I pray that you would strengthen him. I pray that this lawsuit would get settled right away, that you would take away the burden that puts on, whatever the circumstances are, that this would get worked out for the best for him. And Lord, for his job and all the other things that are burdening him, I pray that he is able to cast his anxiety on you, as the scriptures say, and that he's able to trust you, to know that in whatever happens, nobody can take him out of your hands, Lord. Help him to understand that his best life is always in front of him because he loves Jesus. And give him that joy that surpasses understanding, that gets beyond the issues that he has to deal with in life, like we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir.
Hey.
Amen. Glory be to God. Love you. Thank you, sir.
Hey, we love you, Abner. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show today. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll take your call on anything. Bible question, political issue, something in the news, something fun, comment to make, question to ask about anything. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Mark in Northridge, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Thank you, Pastor Scott.
Hi, Mark.
So I just wish they would just spend all that money on Amtrak or even Metrolink. You know, all that money while we already have these trains. That's like Amtrak is already federally subsidized anyway. You know, we could spend some more money with them and get them new equipment. I work for Amtrak, by the way.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and so I get to ride the trains for free, so I love it.
So because you work there, you get to take it. Can you go wherever? Like, can you go across the country?
Yes, I can. If it's the Surfliner, the one that goes to San Diego and all the way up to Goleta, I'll just flash my badge. I get to ride it. If it's other trips, longer trips, I have to book the reservations, but it's still for the most part free.
You can just kind of go right on it. So I have a question for you, since you work on the train. How many freeloaders are on the train? Like, how many people get on and they think I can ride this for a few stops and maybe they won't check on me?
Metrolink passengers, Metrolink rides, that's done a lot. I see it a lot.
Yeah.
You can tell who's trying to hide from the conductor, you know. But with Amtrak, it's different. They're pretty good at checking the tickets, and they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
Metrolink conductors, if you're kind and you let them know, hey, you know, I don't have a ticket. But for the most part, they're kind of kind and actually let you on the train if it's not too far of a trip. But with Amtrak, they'll kick you off.
Well, most of the time when I'm on Metrolink, I've got the whole car to myself anyway.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That's a whole nother problem.
With Amtrak, it's for the most part it's always sold out, and I feel like we could use more trains for Amtrak.
It could be, you know, it's just there's just more you could do with it, or could have done had we continued to do that back, when we were actually laying track, and more than anyone else in the world, we could have kept doing that, but we stopped. Part of it's the car, you know, the car, especially, you know, in the Western United States, it's just easier, and it's huge. I think they don't understand how big, you know, particularly Los Angeles is compared to other major cities, and how spread out it is. Yeah. Mark, I got to go to a commercial.
Real quick. Can I say
5
something
seconds.
about
5 seconds.
about Abner's question? We are souls that have bodies. We are not bodies that have souls.
You're correct.
We don't have souls.
You're correct. Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Open line Friday. Call about anything. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. It's Open Line Friday. We're live on Friday. On Friday, you can call about anything you'd like. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Any topic at all, feel free to change the subject. If we're talking about one thing, we'll go to something else. A Bible question, spiritual issue, maybe you want to talk about the news, something else going on in your life, whatever it is. Today is the day for you. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Denise in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. I've got a question. And so I called Catherine Barger's office and left a message based on the inspiring thought you gave me. Because if we're not going to get a $150 billion train, wouldn't the plan have been to buy the land before you've committed to doing the train? That land is already acquired. So where is that money? If some of that land money went to, let's say, Governor Brown, or people who were privileged to get a portion of the $150 billion, and we have nothing, but we do have a lot of land, right?
Yeah, some of them, I mean, it's not billions of dollars of land. I looked that up, actually, and here's who owns the land that the bullet train would be on. Some of it is money. Some of it is land that the state bought, okay, from like farmers. So in the Central Valley, and some of the sad story of it is it's family farms that sold their land for the train for the good of California, so they thought, and now they're never going to see the train, but they've lost that part of their land and their ability to farm it. So the state owns it. I think that it's part of the High-Speed Rail Commission owns it. Some of the land is actually owned by other rail companies that they're going to borrow and use part of those rails is what the plan is morphing into now, which I'm not even sure that those rails can handle high-speed rail, which would mean the train has to slow down. But Southern Pacific, I think BNSF or BS, what's the other? There's another train company that runs those things. And some of it's owned by cities, some of it's already state highways, some of it might go down the middle of a corridor and a freeway. So it's various. Some of it's public land. All of it eventually is either public land or it will be land that they have a lease for.
You know why I ask is because I backed into this. I was looking into air rights over real estate, and everybody who owns a piece of property has air rights. Now, if a government acquires a piece of property, whether it's eminent domain, but it becomes government property, they own the air rights. And as of July 1st, conveniently enough, California has SB 79, which is high-density housing that takes housing up to 8 stories. So by doing a land grab or spending this money, and now it's not going to go all the way to Los Angeles, it's not going to go all the way to San Francisco, but circle, Barstow, someplace like that.
No, it's Merced and Bakersfield.
Exactly. And we have a lieutenant governor that is a multi-billionaire who is a Greek land developer's daughter, and she's running for treasurer. And I'm just wondering if this is turning into a big land grab and high-density housing all up and down the state. And this land went into what they called surplus land.
Yeah, well, I doubt that they're putting I don't think there's going to be high-density housing in Central California because nobody wants to live there. A lot of it there's nothing there. And so I think it has more to do with money that's going to unions, money that's getting funneled back into politics, and the usual thing that everybody sees in their face but nobody wants to do anything about. I don't know about landowners and other stuff. But Denise, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. We'll take your call on anything at all. Ron in Long Beach, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, I'm a first-time caller.
Here you go, Ron. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, I've been a Christian for about 40 years. I'm 67 years old now, but I've studied with a lot of different ministries and denominations, and I love to read commentaries, Bible commentaries, and I stumbled across a Seventh-day Adventist commentary, found that I agreed with everything they said. I want to know your opinions about Seventh-day Adventists and why people like Pastor John MacArthur, who I highly respect, don't see things their way.
Okay. Well, what particular were you really convinced by? The idea that we should have church on Saturday instead of Sunday?
Yeah, that and the fact that when we die, we're just extinguished. We don't suffer for eternity.
Well, I don't know, honestly, that all Seventh-day Adventists, I think Seventh-day Adventists believe that you don't go immediately to hell or heaven at death, that you're in a soul sleep, but you do get judged and you will either go to heaven or hell. So maybe the contemporary you're reading had that, or your commentary you're reading had that. So what I would say is this. I don't know for sure what John MacArthur said, but probably, one of the things he said is, look, the early church met on Sundays. They seemed to think it was perfectly appropriate. People who knew Jesus personally, the disciples, the apostles, they felt like they could do it on Sunday, and it was the Lord's Day, Resurrection Day, and that's why they moved services or gathering time from the Sabbath Saturday to Sunday. There was probably a practical reason. At some point, they were meeting in the synagogue, the book of Acts tells us, but probably the Jews who didn't want to convert really wouldn't want you to meet then on Saturday because that's their day, but they were probably happy to have you on Sunday where no one was using it. So my thought is, and I don't know what John MacArthur's view was about what happens to the soul in particular, but for sure I think Seventh-day Adventists, and maybe if you are a Seventh-day Adventist, you can correct me, but I think that they do believe in heaven or hell and final judgment. They just don't believe that.
They do believe in heaven, hell, and final judgment, but they just don't believe that if you're judged to go to hell, it's not you get extinguished. You don't suffer for eternity.
Oh, that it's some people might believe in what's called there's a term for it, but yeah, the idea that you get extinguished eventually. Some people believe that, but I would say because we don't know, and because the Bible seems to indicate everlasting torment, that it's better to just make that your bet. And the best bet is just trust Jesus, and you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. All right. Thank you very much, Pastor.
All right, Ron, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. Call about anything. You never know where the show's going to go on Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Am I saying your name right? Yonette?
Yes. Hi, Pastor Scott.
Yonette?
God bless.
God bless you. Welcome to the Pastor Scott Show. Are you a first-time caller?
No.
Oh, you've called before? Okay. Well, I didn't remember your name,
Yes.
so welcome.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I have a question, and I would really want your advice or recommendation because it's my first fast doing it, say, in a group. Individually, we're all going to do it in our own homes, but each group has a day. And I mean, I've heard different ways, but I really want to know your opinion of how I should go about it. My day will be Tuesday.
So you're not going to eat on Tuesday? Is that the idea? You're going to fast all day?
Yeah, some people will do the what they call the Daniel fast. Some people will, depending whatever on their medical condition. And me, it'll be food.
Okay. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think it's really about the heart behind it. Okay. It's a focus on God is number one. So we have teaching in the scripture about Jesus says, when you fast, don't make a show of it, meaning don't let everybody know you're fasting. You keep that between you and God. I mean, it's okay that your group knows it and you're doing this together. Are you praying for something in particular? Like what's motivating it?
Yes, the church wants to pray for, like, say, there's a day that we're going to invite friends or family to have a good result about that. And then say, you also pray, like in my case, for my husband, that he would get closer to God, and how there's that book in Ezekiel, turn his heart of stone into one of flesh.
Yeah.
And a new spirit, just for him to draw closer to God and whatever else. You pray for yourself, you pray for others. So it's different things. There's just some people say, like when you wake up, start off either like with a song or read the Bible. Sometimes I'm saying, like, what should I read?
Yeah. Well, here's what I would do is the reason I ask you about the praying is because if you're fasting but you're not praying, or you don't have a specific reason why, then you're just skipping meals and maybe you'll lose some weight. But if you're going to fast spiritually, you're doing it because you want guidance from the Lord. Maybe you have a decision to make. Repentance is you want to repent from your sins. That's Jonah, fasted then. Crisis or danger, they fasted in the book of Esther. Some people fast when they're mourning, to really give their grief to the Lord. And many people for spiritual breakthrough or strength, like you're doing. And I think that's what it sounds like you're doing. So what I would do is when you get up in the morning, just pray first. When I've done it, I just pray for my day. God, help me not to get too hungry. Help me not to have physical, maybe I'm going to get a headache or something, right? I don't want that. I want to have a good day where I focus on the Lord. And then every time you get hungry, every time you think about eating, pray and, go to Scripture and maybe read the Psalms. Every time you get hungry, read one of the Psalms.
Okay.
They don't take very long.
Yeah, I did want to start reading 119 because that's a big one.
That is a big one. You may not finish it in the day. But
and is it okay either for me to either read it in the book or to hear it?
Either way is fine.
I don't want to be guilty.
No, either way is fine. In fact, in the old days, most people heard the Scriptures by reading it or hearing it because there was only one Bible. And, the pastor would read it, everyone would hear it, and that's it. So, yeah, don't worry about stuff like that. God's not legalistic. What he wants is a relationship with you. He wants you to be in his word. He wants you to focus on him, and he wants you to do what you're called to do. And it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. So trust the Lord for that process and call us back sometime. Tell us how it goes. I got to take a break. Pastor Scott Show, Open Line Friday. Be right back. Hey, one of the things that's important is your health, and sleep apnea is something that affects millions of Americans. It affected me, and for me, it was snoring, I'm grinding my teeth, and other things, but it also can lead to terrible things like heart attack and stroke and about 170 different ailments that you don't want. Alzheimer's disease, dementia, things like that, because your brain and your heart, they're not getting enough oxygen while you sleep. Well, I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to see if there was another way other than the CPAP masks. So I went to go see Dr. Eddie Simon. Dr. Eddie Simon here in Los Angeles has been working out a new solution for about 30 years. It's a mouthpiece. It's custom made. He doesn't pull it off the shelf. He examines your head and your neck and your throat. You get a CT scan and he tells you whether or not you're eligible for it. And I was. It works great. I got used to it on my second night, fits completely in my mouth, and resolved all of those issues for me. I think this can work for you. Call Dr. Eddie Simon at 800-92-SMILE, 800-92-SMILE, or go to tmjexpert.com. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday on the Pastor Scott Show. That means it's Open Line Friday.
Open Line Friday's calling you. Bring your faith, your fun, your politics too. From Southern Cali, we bring the light. Every Friday, feeling so right. Right!
That's right. On Fridays, you can call about anything you would like on the Pastor Scott Show. Phone number is 888-528-2557. You can call now. Open Line Friday is sponsored by Berglund and Johnson, the personal injury attorneys with offices in L.A., Orange County, serving Southern California. Protect your family by calling 1-800-4 and the words "if hurt." 1-800-4 and the words "if hurt." All right, phone number for Open Line Friday is 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. I've always wondered if when I'm giving out the number for Berglund and Johnson, if they start getting some Open Line Friday calls. You think they do? I bet they do. I'm going to have to ask those guys if they do. You get some interesting phone calls about trains and Bible questions on Fridays. That's probably our fault. The correct number for Open Line Friday is 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Let's go to clip number 5.
We share a wall, and I have a lot of windows that overlook it, and they are just quiet. I'm just still really shocked. I wouldn't expect it in this neighborhood, just didn't expect it when I went for my morning walk. Not what I thought I'd see. You never know who your neighbors are.
That was neighbors in a Tustin neighborhood who discovered that their next door neighbor, where they even share a wall, it was actually a house where they were making drugs. And they got it's never in my neighborhood, right? The DEA busted into their neighbor's home, and it turned out it was a complete laboratory for the manufacture of different kinds of illegal drugs and hazardous chemicals. There was no furniture in the house whatsoever. There were all kinds of things, including a Firmapress, which I guess is something they use to make pills, and that's going on with the neighbors. How well do you know your neighbors? What's the craziest thing that you've ever experienced with your neighbors? Call us now, 888-528-2557 if you got any stories, 888-528-2557. Of course, it's Open Line Friday. You can call about anything else if you want, 888-528-2557. You have some crazy neighbors, Jose?
No, my neighbors seem pretty cool, but come on. If you ever watched Breaking Bad, I mean, these people should not be surprised.
That's right. That was in a regular, suburban neighborhood, stucco house.
Yeah. They went in as exterminators, built a whole lab in a house.
It's an interesting thing. And I think it is a problem that we don't know our neighbors, right? And to have that next door, a complete drug lab, and it's not just like next door and there's a fence and there's a garage, you don't pay attention. You share a wall, right? You're that close. And you didn't see it? I'll bet that happens all the time. 888-528-2557. Any crazy neighbor stories? Maybe you're the crazy neighbor. You just want to tell on yourself. You can do that. 888-528-2557. We've had some crazy neighbors before. And we had a neighbor, I got a bunch of these stories just rolling through my head right now. We had a neighbor with a dog that used to bark at night, like, and of course that dog never barked until about 2 a.m. And as a pastor, Saturday night, you want a good night's sleep because you're preaching the next day. And it was always on Saturday night. And I got to tell you, we lost those calls. We did not grieve when that dog died. And I love dogs, but we were not sad about that. We never understood why they left that dog outside. But I'll tell you what, that dog, it sounded like it was barking right into our window.
Well, this is a disaster.
We just thought it was just like almost on purpose. And we bought one of those devices that's supposed to send out a signal to stop the dog from barking, and it worked for a while. Are those things mean? Like, do the dogs hate those things? I don't know. We had that going on. 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. On Open Line Friday, you can call about anything you'd like. 888-528-2557. Bible question, spiritual question, something else in the news, 888-528-2557. I read an article one time, I've talked about it before, that says one of the reasons we don't know our neighbors is because of the invention of the garage door opener. That now we just drive up to our house, we click the button, we stay in our car. We don't get out, keep listening to our tunes or listening to the Pastor Scott Show, probably is what you're listening to, right? And then you drive in and then you click the button again, the door goes down, and you don't have to say hello to anybody. And it used to be that, first of all, most people didn't have a garage, or maybe at best you had a carport. And, so you'd have to get out of your car, and your neighbor, who probably didn't have air conditioning, was sitting out on their porch, and you'd have a conversation, and you'd get to know them. And that would happen on a regular basis. So you kind of knew your neighbors, where today you just don't. And maybe they're doing this. I remember when the terrorists, when the 9/11 terrorists, some of them are in San Diego, Claremont area, for those of you listening in San Diego's Cape Rays. And they found in one of their apartments a terrorist manual. It was like a book that you had, to tell you how to be a terrorist.
What's wrong with that?
Well, I suppose there's literature on that kind of thing. And in the book, one of the most remarkable things is that it said, when you're loading in, the whole idea is if you're building bombs, for example, or you're doing things that might look suspicious, it actually said, don't worry about it. Your neighbors aren't paying attention. That as Americans, we're just not paying attention to our neighbors. I thought that was really a sort of a condemning thing about, us culturally, is that like, wow, we're known for that. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Sharon in Vista, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, I have a follow-up story for your dog story.
Yeah.
When we lived in Alabama, there was a dog that would go out in the intersection of the neighborhood and howl every night. I guess he was howling at the moon or whatever.
Uh-huh.
My husband was a bullwhip expert, and he went out there and snuck up on the dog and cracked the bullwhip. It sounded like a rifle going off, and that dog went yelping away and never came back.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes you got to do that's better than going out there and shooting the dog, which does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I feel bad. I feel bad for the dogs. So neighbors, you got to put the dog inside. Love your dogs. Have them be an inside dog, at least at night, if they bark, especially. Sharon, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show on Open Line Friday. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Open Line Friday. You can call about anything you would like. Suzette in Thousand Oaks, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, thanks for talking to me, and I think I can top your story about the dog and the barking.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, we had a house and like a street or two. It was like over this wash. There was a neighbor over there, and it was like they had a donkey. And I thought, when can you have a donkey or a cow or anything? I mean, we could have horses, but not livestock. So anyway, all the neighbors would complain. And so one day I thought, I'm going to go look for this donkey. And this lady who was like a few houses away said, it's over there. Because I thought nobody knew where it was because it was over this wash. And so the lady happened to pull up in the driveway. I said, your donkey in the middle of the night, we don't know if it's hurt or whatever. And she said, okay, thank you. So it kept happening. So one day it woke me up about 5 in the morning. I got up, I put my robe on. I looked at my husband. I said, "Are you coming?" He looked at me. I said, "Because I'm going over there." I go over, I knock on the door, and her son comes to the door, and he said, "Oh, I fed him." I said, "Well, it sounds like he's hurt or he's hungry," or I said, "But he's waking everybody up and everybody's complaining." Oh, and then she never came. I said, "Is your mom here?" She didn't come to the door, but it was like after a while we no more donkey. I don't know what happened, but I solved that mystery.
That's an incredible story that, people today, it's more and more common that people have different kinds of livestock, even in communities where it's technically not allowed.
Right. That's that. And then they also found somebody with a bunch of sheep, like over there. And I'm going like, what? I said, I'm waiting for the giraffe or the elephant to walk down the street with the horses. Anyway, that never happened, but
No,
that's my story.
Yeah, that never happened yet. It's coming.
Right.
Somebody's going to have a giraffe. Right. Like, I've always wanted one of those giraffes.
You're going to walk in somewhere and say, "This is my service animal, Dumbo," or
oh my gosh,
like that. Or
yeah, they finally started.
I can't wait.
They finally started cracking down on the service animal for real when somebody brought a peacock on a plane. And I was like,
okay.
I think that's not going to be the case there. And peacocks are loud, by the way.
They do. They screech, so they're loud, and
they do.
And when they those wings, look out, their tail.
And if they're sitting next to you on a plane, they take over all the armrests. It's really annoying.
And they do not walk up to the restroom and shut the door and go in there either. So clean up on aisle 7.
I guess not. Thanks, Suzette. Thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557 is the number. It is Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Jennifer in Ventura, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Well, thank you, Pastor Scott. I listen to you every afternoon on my way home from work.
Well, thank you.
So, the caller about the drug lab being their neighbor and they shared a wall with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little different story, but my husband and I had a rental, which was brand new to us. We had never been landlords before. And we thought, well, we can rent this out on our own. We don't need any help. And we managed that, and we got a lovely lady from, where was she from? Oh, I'm sorry, I forget. It's been a while. Anyways, hadn't heard from them for a very long time, but they were still paying rent, so we were happy. And my husband went there for some reason and discovered that they had completely moved out. But when we started looking around to see the condition of the place, which was perfectly fine except for the garage, there were lights hanging from the ceiling. You could see the rings on the garage floor where they had pots where they were growing something. There was like a insulation board all over the garage, like they had built rooms to seclude it. And then we went out into the backyard and found where they had dumped all the soil that they were growing their pots in, and came to the conclusion that they were just renting the place for growing pot for a short amount of time and then left. But they continued paying rent for like 3 months. The neighbors said they hadn't seen them for 3 months, but we still received rent for that 3 months.
It's very interesting. So business must have been good for them, unfortunately.
Well, the stories we heard afterwards is it's not uncommon for people to come in, rent a place, do exactly what they did, made it a pot farm, in the garage, and then they skedaddle when they're all done.
And then why do they keep paying, though? Is there a reason you think that you would keep paying, or did you just forget? Was it like on auto pay or something, and it was like you got an extra Netflix account and you just don't think about it?
I don't know, but we always thought it was very curious because we didn't have an exact date when they moved out,
Uh-huh.
But the neighbors were all saying they hadn't seen them for like 3 months.
But
So
the
we
neighbors
went
had
with
some
the
clue
3
that something was going on over there.
Well, I don't know. They didn't really.
Yeah.
Actually, everyone seemed surprised when we were going, oh, yeah, we found this, and then we found this. And my husband's going, they were growing pot. Because it was just lined. The floor was lined with, like, 5-gallon jug rings. Nothing was there, just the rings. But on the side of the house, there was all this, I don't know, I guess board that has silver lining on it so that the lights reflect for the plants.
Huh. Very interesting.
Anyways, I
well,
thought it was
I'm glad they moved on. And right now somebody's going, we've got these people who have all this weird stuff in their garage that we're renting to. They just moved to somebody else, probably. Yeah. Well, Jennifer, thank you for calling and listening to the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. That means you can call about anything you would like on Open Line Friday. Bible questions, spiritual questions, something on your mind, you can ask about anything. 888-528-2557 is the number. Go to PastorScottShow.com to connect with us online, PastorScottShow.com. You can find our social media podcast, our live stream, where you can watch the Pastor Scott Show at PastorScottShow.com. Send it to your friends. We also have a YouTube page now. Check out the YouTube. Give us a follow on there. We're going to be doing a lot more on that YouTube page here pretty soon, so you don't want to miss that. So go to your YouTube, look for at Pastor Scott Show, at Pastor Scott Show, and give it a follow. Hey, I want to tell you about Sanctuary Metals. Sanctuary Metals is a Christian-owned, faith-based company that will help you secure your future by helping you move part of your IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver. In this day and age, a lot of people are investing in gold because of the uncertainty in the stock market, uncertainty with all kinds of things going on in the world. And if you've been thinking about that and would like to do that, well, check out Sanctuary Metals. Sanctuary Metals will help you move part of your IRA or 401k into a physical gold and silver IRA. Maybe you've got an old IRA from an employer and you don't know what to do with it, an old employer, or if you're over 59 and a half, you might qualify to roll it over with no taxes and no penalties. It takes about 15 minutes over the phone, and Sanctuary Metals will walk you through everything there. They do the paperwork, they're the custodian, and they can even store your gold and silver in IRS-approved vaults for you, giving you peace of mind. You don't have to keep it in your house or in your garage next to your pot plants or whatever you might be doing over there. Phone number for them is 800-801-9877, 800-801-9877. Make sure you tell them Pastor Scott sent you to see if you qualify for a no-fee-for-life precious metals IRA. You can learn more at sanctuarymetals.com, sanctuarymetals.com. Phone number is 800-801-9877. Past performance does not guarantee future results, which is true with any kind of investment when it comes to that kind of thing. All right, 888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557. Sometimes you have trouble with the neighbors, and sometimes your neighbors are something that you don't expect. Let's go to 14-1.
Well, now to a Case Area 3 exclusive. Chickens have been overrunning a neighborhood in Old North Sacramento, largely around Boxwood Street.
Neighbors say they need help. The city says they're really just too busy to deal with this. Case Area 3's Peyton Headley joins us in the studio. I guess we need to start with, is this really a big problem?
It is a pretty big problem. Neighbors say there's about 100 chickens, and we were in that area today, and the chickens are around every corner, and even if you can't see them, you surely can hear them.
Well, this is a disaster.
So this neighborhood up in Sacramento area is getting overrun by chickens, and it's wild chickens. They're not just chickens in somebody's backyard that they're not supposed to have, and you hear all that noise over there. The entire neighborhood is now being overrun by chickens. Let's go to 14-2.
It's hard to ignore the soundtrack of this Old North Sacramento neighborhood.
There's like more than 100.
They're everywhere. It's like we live on a chicken farm.
Chickens are everywhere, and they're not quiet. Neighbors say this is what it sounds like most mornings around 3.
It's annoying. It is. They start up, probably around 2:30 every morning, and they just go all the time. It's nonstop.
And the noise isn't the only issue.
They jump into people's yards and tear up dirt. Also, they're leaving stuff. It's become probably a sanitary issue at this point.
Well, this is a disaster.
So these chickens are all over this neighborhood. Now, if you've ever been to, other countries or maybe real rural places of the United States, having chickens everywhere is kind of normal life for a lot of people, but not in this neighborhood in Sacramento where well over 100 chickens are there. The neighbors are saying that the noise from the roosters starts about 2 a.m. every night, and they don't know where these chickens and roosters are coming from. I mean, hopefully they have some idea of how that happens, but that's going on in the neighborhood. What do you think, Jose?
Look, I'm proposing a $10 billion bond. All these chickens need is more housing. That is the answer.
You know what? We need to get in some kind of scam. Everybody else is making money off this state. We might as well have homeless chicken funds, $10 billion to house these chickens.
But you remember that one? It was like a couple shows ago where it was like one man versus one gorilla versus like 100 men. You remember that?
Right. That was an internet sensation. The question is who would win, one gorilla or 100 men?
Now, who would win here? One man versus 100 chickens?
I don't know. It takes a while to collect a chicken. You ever go chasing chicken? It's not easy to catch a chicken.
Man, what if they start pecking him? Just imagine all those chickens just attacking that one guy.
They might be gathering together as a group, all of these chickens to do that. Do you have chickens in your house? You have chickens in your neighborhood? We have chickens in our neighborhood. It's a thing. That one guy, he was talking about things that chickens leave. You can go on Amazon. I'm not kidding. Go on Amazon, and they have diapers for chickens. I'm not even kidding. You can put a diaper on your chicken. That way they can walk around the house.
These people are crazy.
How do you put that on? Getting back to what you're saying, I got to go to a break, but how do you even put that on? Like the chicken, is he comfortable with that? My dog doesn't like it when I put on his walking, vest that he has to wear to, walk around. Open Line Friday, Pastor Scott Show will take your calls and more when we come back. You can call about anything, chickens, neighbors, or a Bible question, spiritual question, anything at all. Call now, 888-528-2557. We'll change the subject just for you. You can call about Bible questions, spiritual issues, something in the news, whatever's on your mind. Call right now, 888-528-2557. Pastor Scott Show, Open Line Friday. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It is Friday, and Friday on the Pastor Scott Show means Open Line Friday. We'll take your call on anything, 888-528-2557. It could be a spiritual issue or something personal to you. You can talk about political matters, something in the news, or just anything you want, including how to get rid of chickens that are taking over your neighborhood.
Well, this is a disaster.
888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. You can call now. Chris in Westminster, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hey, thanks, Pastor Scott. A quick comment before my question.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I watched a show on the Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
And he had an episode in Florida. I'm not sure what county it was in, but they had a bunch of chicken, same kind of problem in their county. And they had like a team dedicated through the government that would just go around collecting chickens. And they had 8 to 15 guys trying to round up one chicken, and man, it's not easy. And it took them hours trying to round up 5 chickens.
It's not easy. So, I was reminded too that, or I remembered that in the movie Rocky, that's one of his training techniques is to go chase chickens. To get your feet going for boxing. That's not a bad way to work on your balance.
Yeah. Hey, my question is real quick. My wife and I were talking the other night, and we have a son who's in his 20s now. But I know he kind of battles with some depression and things like that. And without being overly maybe critical or whatnot, when we were having that discussion, and people that deal with depression and this mental illness in general, I came to sort of the conclusion that I'm wondering if a lot of it is like a spiritual warfare thing where they're being attacked maybe spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people struggle with, some real mental problems, and sometimes my mind goes to it's just mental things that they have to battle. And I was wondering, do you think it could be like a spiritual thing, or is there actual a problem going on inside the brain there that needs to be fixed somehow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people are asking that kind of question a lot. In the Bible, you have a couple of different examples. For example, you have You have many examples of people who aren't dealing with sort of spiritual or demonic problems, but they're dealing with depression or anxiety or despair. King David dealt with that. Elijah dealt with that. The book of Lamentations is about grief and anguish. There is a lot in the Bible that is about trying to learn to cast your anxieties on the Lord. You know, in modern world, we understand brain chemistry and some of those things are going on, and certainly with some mental illness, it's an illness like having the flu, right, or a disease of some kind. It can be all of that, where it isn't necessarily, a spiritual affliction. On the other hand, in the Bible, there is spiritual affliction on some people. In Mark chapter 5, the man who was living among the tombs, he was harming himself. You know, there's a lot of people today who, when they get depressed or they'll cut themselves or they'll put themselves in severe isolation, and they have an extreme behavior issue or loss of control. And that guy was dealing with that. Matthew 17, there was a boy with seizures that was linked to a demon, right? So you do have some biblical evidence for spiritual affliction in that regard. But you also, I think, have biblical evidence that says sometimes it's just part of the human fallen condition that we deal with anxiety and stress and depression. So whatever the case is, I think you should definitely pray openly towards whatever's going on. You said your son, right?
Correct, yes.
You know, and, be open to that. I like to pray. When I pray about those things, I just pray to God, if this is demonic, then in the name of Jesus Christ, I command those spirits to leave. I say stuff like that. And whether, if it is, then I think I'm doing that battle. If it's not, I continue to pray for and ask God for healing. I do think, for me, I think today, more and more often, there is the idea of the accuser, meaning that the evil one way or the other, is saying things to us that tear us down. Like we hear, like if you're really hearing voices, it's one thing, but sometimes the voice in our head, our self-language is so negative. I wonder often how much of that is the devil telling us that we're no good or we're not loved or we're not going to be successful or we don't have value. And at some level, there is a spiritual implication there because you have complete total value. Jesus died for you. You are loved. You are made in the image of God. And I think as a tactic, the spiritual warfare that we know is going on is there to take you away from Christ, to take your thoughts away. So I would be open to it, but I think some people take it too far on the extremes, the extreme that it's never happening or the extreme that it's always happening. I'm sad today, it must be the devil. Well, maybe it's not the devil. Maybe you need to sleep better. Maybe you need to eat better. In fact, there's biblical evidence that I think it's Elijah who the Lord says, get some sleep and some rest and eat better. And there's a lot of people today who are finding success with some of those issues by changing their diet. Eating more whole foods and eating healthy, figuring out, there's certain foods that for some people affect people differently. And when you take that out of your diet, it might be fat, it might be sugar, it might be caffeine, that as soon as you remove that, you feel a lot better, even emotionally.
Real quick on that point, I know our son he thinks that sometimes doing marijuana will help with that stuff. And I believe, my wife and I believe it's actually hurting him, not helping him. And so to your point, I wonder if that could be part of the issue too.
Yeah, I would say for sure that is something to look at because I would agree with you. It does not help you. It's not healthy. In fact, the research now is coming out where that is probably definitely the case, that smoking marijuana is not helping you, that it is creating the anxiety and the depression and a lot of problems. And it depends kind of how your son reacts to like research. And sometimes he doesn't, our kids don't react to us, because we're the parent.
Right.
But there is something to that. My personal view is that there is nothing wise about doing that it is harming you. We call people potheads later in life because you can kind of tell, right? It has an effect, and the effect is not good. So I would definitely address that. If he's doing that, it's probably making his depression worse.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks so much, Pastor, and God bless you and your ministry. Always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and God bless you, and keep praying for your son, and pray that he comes to understand that, because the world today started pushing marijuana like it's good. Now, a few weeks ago, we did a segment on it a week or two ago. The New York Times even finally wrote an article saying, turns out the pot stuff is bad for you, which we knew from the beginning, right? I mean, we should have known that, but there you go. I tell my kids right now, don't put anything in your lungs that's not oxygen, right? Don't vape, don't smoke, don't do marijuana. Just if you're putting it in your lungs, it's not good for you. 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Open line Friday. Neil and Pacoima, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hi, Pastor Scott. Yesterday you talked about why people listen to Christian radio.
Yeah.
And I'd like to share. I have two radio stations I listen to. I listen to KKLA because there's a whole lot of wonderful pastors that share very important truths. I love to listen to like Don MacArthur and everybody else.
Yeah.
Although we did miss Pastor Jeff at 10:30. I don't know what happened to him, but also I listen to Caleb for the wonderful music.
Oh, yeah. So you listen to, we did a subject yesterday on, we just asked people why they listen to Christian radio. And so you like the music and the sermons and the teaching.
Yes, as I do miss Pastor Jeff at 10:30 on KKLA.
You know, I will look him up. Look him up for me, will you, Jose? And see, maybe he changed timers or something and I wasn't aware of it. I feel like he's still around. So Pastor Jeff Schwarzentraub. Pastor Jeff Ministries. I tease him about that because it's like Schwarzentraub is too hard to spell. But Pastor Jeff, we can all do that. Neil, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show, and thank you for listening here at KKLA. 888-528-2557. It's open line Friday, 888-528-2557. You can call about anything. Henry and Compton, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Hello, Pastor Scott. You were talking earlier about animals that irritated us, the chickens and the dogs. Well, this is a true story. This happened before my mom passed away. She was getting sick and she needed help. So we hired a nanny who came to live with us. Anyway, during that time, I had a cat that was a stray cat that I kind of adopted, and he wouldn't come inside our house, but he would stay in the backyard, and I would take care of him. And that cat was so good. It was catching gophers, roaches, rats, anything it found. It was just a good hunter, right? So anyway, during that time that this nanny was staying with us, she stayed with us for 4 years, there was a time where a blue jay bird was coming in our backyard and making a terrible noise, like every 10 minutes. And it was like really loud and irritating, right? And so one day I was watching from the backyard and I saw that blue jay come and swoop down on my cat. And I told the nanny, I said, I know what it is. It's a bird, and most likely it's protecting its nest. And it was so funny because she said, you got to do something about that bird. I said, what can I do with that bird? That's a bird. I can't go out and catch no bird. And she said, you got to do something about that bird, because it was irritating, right? And finally, I told her, well, listen, I put my odds on my cat. My cat's a good catcher. Just give it time. My cat's going to catch that bird. Sure enough, about 3 days later, I get up early in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and I go in the backyard, and there's feathers all over the backyard. And all I found was two long birds, the legs of a bird, because it was a blue jay, I think. And I was like, oh, my cat won. I knew it. Oh, man, that morning I told her, I told her, I told you my cat would get it.
There is Wild Kingdom in our backyard is a great thing sometimes.
Yeah, and when you guys are talking about animals that irritate us, for some reason, that came to my mind. That was like about more than my mom passed away in 2018. So about 8, 9, 10 years ago that happened.
Yeah, that's a great memory. Henry, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. I got to go to a break here. 888-528-2557. It's open line Friday. 888-528-2557. Call about anything. A spiritual question, Bible question, pesky, animals in your neighborhood, whatever is on your mind, you can ask today on the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. Be right back. Pastor Scott Show, open line Friday, 888-528-2557. You can call about anything you'd like to. Bible questions, spiritual questions, something in the news you want to talk about. Today is your day. It's our final segment here, 888-528-2557. Let's go back to the chickens for a second, then I'll go to the phones, 14-3.
It's hard for them to say exactly when or how their street became their home.
So that's kind of a mystery.
But neighbors are ready for them to find a new one.
They should be taken to a sanctuary because I don't want them to get hurt, and I feel like I care about them.
And I would just prefer if they weren't in our neighborhood.
So far, their search for solutions has come up short.
Me and other neighbors started reaching out to the city probably about 6 months ago, just saying, hey, we need help. Right, can you get rid of the chickens, do something? And they really haven't done anything about it.
We took their concerns to the city of Sacramento, the city telling us it can't address free-roaming chickens, adding, quote, there is substantial time involved to catch or trap chickens, and although we wish we could assist, triaging higher priority calls does not make this possible at this time, given our current staffing levels.
I think this is important.
Neighbors say they wish this was a priority because all they want is some peace and quiet.
Show us you care, and we're asking for help. We just need some help so people can sleep.
So this is a story from Sacramento neighborhood that's been overrun by chickens, this wild chickens, and they go to the city for help, and the city says, we're not going to help you. There's not a thing we can do.
Well, you got an attitude with you, I'll tell you that.
And so what would you tell these people? You know, how in the world do you deal with these chickens in that neighborhood, and the city's not going to help? And that's kind of a wild story, wild story with wild chickens everywhere. All right, it's Open Line Friday, 888-528-2557, 888-528-2557. Don in L.A., welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Yeah, Pastor Scott, I think it's important not fetishize trivialities. I wanted to talk about the Supreme Court ruling this week that was just monumental.
Which one?
Back in the civil, that was about the Voting Rights Act and dismantling the rest of it. I lived through the whole civil rights era. That was a huge struggle of blood and sacrifice to give equal rights for all, to realize that finally the outcome of the Civil War. Because back in the Civil War, America was a very religious nation, and both sides had made an appeal to heaven to judge in the matter. That's why everything was so apocalyptic to them. It was so traumatic, this brother against brother thing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the South lost, but they kind of nursed this noble but lost cause idea. And that's largely the roots of the Christian right movement. And I don't understand why there's such an obsession with right-wing politics. We should be supporting democracy, because if there's 32 districts of the 435 House members in this country that are in play in any given election, because everything is so gerrymandered. If the country were really committed to democracy, they would make these districts as purple as possible so the people, like Lincoln hoped for, government of by the people, would decide from election to election which way you want to lean.
Yeah. So I'm a little confused.
It's a terrible witness.
Help me understand where you're coming from, because what the Supreme Court did in their view, we may do a whole segment on this next week actually, but in their view, that's exactly what they did. They said we're not going to have racially segregated districts, and of course we've got the other issue of the states gerrymandering right now before the midterms, and some of those are going to work out. Some of them probably aren't, but I don't like gerrymandering at all. I think all of it's bad. So it seems to me that the Supreme Court is saying that you're right, we should have more purple districts. Ultimately, that's the direction they're headed.
They can say that, but they're not. Their actions betray their words. No, Ronald Reagan began his campaign in 1980. He kicked it off in Philadelphia, but it wasn't Philadelphia, Mississippi, or Pennsylvania. It was Philadelphia, Mississippi, the site of an atrocity in the civil rights, people trying to register votes. And the Republican Party has just been pulling, saying John Roberts and the Reagan administration just wanted to eviscerate that whole thing from the beginning. And they're not facing the reality.
I don't think most people are there. Would you say, and you were there, so tell me.
Well, then they don't know our history. We just don't know our history.
How different is it now than then? Because one of the arguments, and there's things to say on both sides of this, so like I told you, we'll get to that next week a little bit more.
Let
me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question, because you were there. Is it the same now, or is it any better for voting rights?
It's much worse. It's much
you think it's worse? Because one of the things is that's true now is that
there was.
But do you think right now probably there are people of color, black candidates and other ethnic candidates winning elections in both parties in all white districts? I don't think that was the case in the 1960s. That's the case everywhere now, including in the South.
They were working on dismantling that whole thing. It was just, they had to continually review the law, and
it seems like though it's headed in. It's been in the right direction. I mean, Florida's probably going to have an African American governor. They almost had one in Virginia.
Look, gerrymandering benefits the Republicans are doing. Those policies are very unpopular.
It goes. Hold on. There's gerrymandering on all sides.
To the polls, then.
Gerrymandering is something on both sides.
That's because that's a hand that the Democrats have been handed. They don't want this.
Don, go look, Don, go look at a map and go look at all of the northeastern states and look at what the percentages of votes statewide and how many Republicans and districts and how many Democratic districts.
It's the hand that they've been handed. That's the
no. So it's only wrong when the Republicans do it. It's not wrong when the Democrats do it.
No, you. Look, when you get down the gutter, you got to get down the gutter and fight it out until people.
This has been going on for years.
High ground again.
Nah, that's not how it works. You got to take the high ground. I'm against both sides.
That's real politics.
I'm against both sides doing it. Don, appreciate you calling. I'm going to go on to another caller. I think it's all bad. 888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Vanessa and Torrance, welcome to the Pastor Scott Show.
Oh, hi, Pastor Scott. I was just wondering, I wonder if those chickens are leaving the people eggs. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with having them around.
You know, I had that thought, right? Is that, are there eggs? Now, the question is related to that, and I don't know enough about chickens, but there's also roosters, and the reason there's so many chickens is I think some of those eggs are hatching. I think that's a different kind of egg. Like, can you eat a fertilized egg? I'm not sure that you can or should. Maybe you can. Maybe I don't have any idea.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I'm like, I wonder if they're finding eggs. Like, that would be kind of cool.
You know what? We have some close friends. They've got chickens in their backyard, and they have so many eggs right now. And whenever a few months ago, when the egg prices were so high, it was a good deal for them. And they were giving them out to neighbors, and they had more than they could handle. I'd figure we all ought to probably have some chickens, somewhere. It's the roosters that are noisy and the problem.
Right. But I wouldn't mind having them around. I think it would be fun.
They do leave a mess, though. You're aware of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a side to chickens that you definitely want away from the house. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, thank you so much.
Vanessa, thanks for calling the Pastor Scott Show. 888-528-2557. See, an open line Friday. What's fun about it is we're talking about chickens and chicken stuff, and we're talking about politics and politics stuff, a lot of which is chicken stuff.
Well, this is a disaster.
888-528-2557. 888-528-2557. Lyndon Johnson once said this about politics, and it was in the context of how you can be really popular one day and not popular the next day, or not popular and then suddenly you're popular, and how, 6 months is an eternity in politics, and those kinds of things. And he said that politics is like this. One day you're chicken salad, the next day you're chicken doo-doo, or the next day you're chicken doo-doo, and the next day you're chicken salad. Now, he didn't say doo-doo. He used another term there, but because that's the way he did it. But I thought, you know what? That's kind of the way it is in life sometimes, is we have our ups and downs, and sometimes everybody's mad at you. They don't like you, and then the next day you're everybody's best friend. I think that you do better if you stick with principles, which I think is something that we've lost tremendously over time.
Well, this is a disaster.
888-528-2557. It's Open Line Friday. Maybe call time for one more. But by the way, your ballot is coming out in California election. You should get it next week.
California is in trouble.
And I wonder how many of us are just going to fill it out following all the D's and R's, and how many of us are actually going to pay attention. We talked today about so many different subjects, but we talked about the crazy bullet train and we talked about the fraud. There's issues of homelessness that have come up today in our show, and even the gerrymandering subject, all of this stuff. I wonder how much we understand that our voting has a lot to do with that. That, and not just the top of line, right? The governor's race, everyone's going to pay attention to that. But are you going to pay attention to the people sitting on your city council? Because they're the ones making a lot of these decisions. Or the people on your school boards, they're the ones who are making some crazy decisions for your schools and why the education is so bad. I would do this. When you get your ballot that is coming in the mail next week, don't fill it out right away and mail it in. Go through every single thing, figure out who all those candidates are and what they stand for. Give it some time. And then don't vote based on your D's or your R's, or maybe you've got some other party. Vote for who you think is going to make California better. Because what we've been doing for a long time is voting for the exact same people or the exact same people with a different face and name, but they believe the same thing. And if you don't like the fact that we're spending more money on this bullet train than it would cost to actually buy plane tickets for the entire state for 400 years, 400 years is the statistic. If you don't like that, you got to vote differently. That's how it works. All right, 888-528-2557. Hey, Michelle, Santa Clarita, we just have like 20 seconds, Michelle.
Hi. Praise the Lord. I was calling for prayer and also some advice. My 17-year-old son was recently diagnosed with narcolepsy.
Michelle, I am almost off the air. So can I just pray with you real quick? Because we're going to be cut off here in a second. God, I pray for Michelle. I pray for her son. And with the question on her heart, give her wisdom with how to handle that correctly. And I pray for his healing. In Jesus' name, amen. Michelle, you can email me at pastorscott@kkla.com. pastorscott@kkla.com. Everybody can go to pastorscottshow.com. Follow us on social media. We're on every day live from 3 to 5. I'll see you on Monday, everybody. Have a great weekend.